Hello and welcome to Mark Chatterton's Rock Files with your host Mark Chatterton. Today I'd like to welcome on the show a musician whose musical pedigree stretches right back to the 1960s, and he has worked with such people as Dave Davis of the Kinks, the three of the Beatles, namely John Lennon, George Harrison and Ringo Starr, and has recorded with them, and he's one of the 1960s best kept secrets. He played in a group called Rupert'S people, who didn't quite manage to get a hit single, but they played all over the 60s and into the 70s, and he has got such a lot of stories to tell. So I'd like to welcome on to the show Rod Lynton.
Hello there.
Let's start going back to your youth. You got into music when you were early teens, I suppose. What sort of things made you become a musician?
Possibly the girl upstairs, who was a huge fan of the Beatles in the very early years.
Yeah.
And who I found very attractive, even though she was a friend I'd grown up with. And no, we never did get together. But, you know, early days of infatuation and all the rest of it, very important in the human experience.
Yeah.
And so growing up in this area, North London, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
The Kinks lived up the road, you know, the Beatles seem to have bought houses around Hampstead, or a couple of them had. I was not the most ugly guy on the block, so I was getting a lot of interest from probably the wrong people when I went to what became music business clubs like Speakeasy and all the rest of it. But I soon realised that managers came in two varieties.
Yeah. Real
managers and men with other ideas in their heads, looking for attractive young men, basically.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So, you know, you learn pretty early to duck and dive a little bit.
Yeah.
What else can I add, apart from the fact I was very fortunate in meeting some good people.
Yeah.
And having a reasonably painless introduction to the music business until, at the worst possible point in history, my then manager, a man by the name of Howard Conda, yes, I think I've made the point, decided it would be a good idea to send us to Lebanon.
Right. In
the middle of the Arab wars and all the rest of it. Was that, had he insured us all for like a lot of money and sent us somewhere where he thought we'd probably die? I don't know. Sorry, Howard, but that is a thought in my head. Whatever happened, we actually met Miles Copeland out there.
Yeah.
And Miles had nothing to do with the music business. He knew nothing about the business. His father was a political man, and a very, very good man, and a very great man too, who worked alongside presidents in America and was right at the top end of things.
Yeah, because wasn't he in the CIA?
He was indeed.
Yeah, yeah.
And he and I got on really well, actually. So well that when President Nasser died, who was he was a close friend of President Nasser's.
Yeah.
And therefore a very good asset to the CIA as such.
Yeah.
And when President Nasser died, I happened to be at the Copeland's house up in St John's Wood, as I often was until the early hours of the morning. And I just sort of hopped into the task of fending off countless phone calls from journalists from all over the world wanting to talk to Miles Copeland Sr. About death of President Nasser. And so that's kind of what I did at that point.
You were instrumental in getting Miles Copeland to come back to Britain with you, weren't you?
Indeed, yeah. And I brought Miles Copeland back to England on the promise of managing my band. Oh, gee, Rod, I don't know anything about management. I said, yeah, I know, but I do, and I will teach you what you need to know the right way round. The first thing you need to know, it's the artist that is important, not your bank account.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, get that right and you're okay. That was it, basically.
Yeah. So with Rupert'S people, they started off in the mid-60s.
Yeah.
And they got a recording contract with EMI.
We did indeed, yeah. Well, actually, we were, before Sweet Feeling, before Rupert'S people, we were called The Sweet Feeling.
Yeah.
It's a three-piece band, me and Ray Beverley on bass, and Steve Brendel on drums. And we were a pretty good three-piece, actually, not bad at all. And then we got together with Howard Conda as the manager, and he had used a keyboard player called John Tout.
Yeah, who went on to become biggest things with Renaissance.
There was nothing that guy could not play.
Mm.
He was a genius in music.
Mm.
Unfortunately, he was a troubled man. Mm. In the sense he came from a very ordinary family, as did his sister. Yeah. He was also a very, very confident and capable keyboard player. Yeah. And John was a gay man in an era which wasn't exactly the right era to be in. Yeah, yeah. To be gay. Mm. Because the word gay hadn't really even been used. No, it was a lot more derogatory than that. Yeah. He was a very warm, wonderful guy. And as a keyboard player, I've never met anyone who could play like him. He was just, apart from his sister. Mm. Sadly, heroin became his favourite drug, something I've never even gone near and would never dream of. Mm. And to my horror, his sister, also equally talented, followed him down the same route. Right. And it killed them both. Yeah. We lost two very capable musicians, as we've lost hundreds and thousands in the past. Yeah, yeah, sure. So one of the big things that you wrote with from Rupert'S people was this piece called Reflections of Charles Brown, which you wrote for some fellow musicians from a group called the Fleur de Lis. Fleur de Lis, yeah. And I understand that you had Matthew Fisher, who went on to join Procol Harum. He played on that, or yeah. And it was very similar to A Whiter Shade of Pale. Wasn't it just? Yeah, yes. Yeah. What a coincidence. Yeah. I think Rupert'S people had more of an effect in the music business than we had on the audience. Right, yeah. In some ways. Yeah. Mm. But it did get released, but after A Whiter Shade of Pale, and it missed its chance of being a hit single. Didn't it? Yeah. Mm. And how long did Rupert'S people last? Did they go on into the 70s? Early 70s. Very early, yeah. Yeah, and there you were managed by Miles Copeland. Yeah, who I kind of found, so to speak. Yeah. And I said, Miles, I'm sacking our manager. He's just taken everything we make. Yeah. And I'd like you to think about managing the band. Gee, I don't know anything about managing band. I don't know, Miles, but I do, and I will teach you how to be a very good manager. And you also introduced him to Wishbone Ash, I understand. Sort of. Let's put it this way. I didn't introduce him to as such. No. But I met the guys. I liked them. I let them use our Rupert'S people rehearsal time and our equipment. Yeah. So that they could rehearse and I helped Wishbone Ash. Yeah.
And
they're good friends of mine.
Getting back to the 60s, obviously you were living in London in the middle of all swinging 60s and everything.
Oh yeah, there was a lot going on there.
And how did you get to know the Beatles? Because they, you knew them quite well.
Yeah, well, my drummer Steve Brendel,
yeah,
has worked for NEMS Enterprises.
All right, with Brian Epstein.
And with Brian Epstein, etc. And when Brian died, the Beatles' whole kind of scene took over.
Yeah.
And I became someone who's constantly in their offices and whatnot.
Yeah. So you went into the Apple offices and when
it was a lot, yeah,
right at the height of all that.
I knew everyone there, you know.
Yeah.
And recorded in the Apple studio and all the rest of it.
So was that as Rupert'S People you recorded in there, or with?
It was me.
Yeah, just you doing solo stuff. Yeah, but was it free then?
The people I knew at Apple were very easygoing.
Yeah.
And I think I like to think they knew that I had talent and I should be supported.
Yeah.
And they did a good job of.
Yeah.
Not charging me loads of money to be supported, you know.
And did those recordings ever get released, or they?
Well, they were demos.
Just
really.
demos,
They were demos.
Yeah.
But without that connection to the Beatles, I do wonder if I'd have necessarily gone the route I did as well as I did.
Yeah, sure.
And as easily as I did. Now, the thing is that I've never been a shy boy.
No.
So it fell very easily for me when Miles Copeland, who I brought into the music business, I don't know anything about the music business. Yeah, I know, Miles, but I do.
Yeah.
And I'll teach you everything I know. And you're a bright guy, you'll learn. And he did. So Rupert'S People was rehearsing in Miles Copeland's family home's basement.
Yeah.
In St John's Wood. And then Miles, off his own bat, met up with a couple of guys, and that turned into Wishbone Ash.
Yeah.
And me being me, and a fairly generous person with my time and things, gave them some of our rehearsal time and our equipment to rehearse and bring in another player or two and get themselves sorted out. So you could argue that without Rupert'S People there might never have been a Wishbone Ash.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But getting back to the Beatles, you actually played on John Lennon's Imagine album.
I did, yeah.
So how did that come about then?
John asked me to play on his Imagine album. Yeah, basically, well, it was really Mal Evans.
You knew Mal Evans, didn't you?
Yeah, it was really Mal Evans,
roadie and bodyguard, etc.
Mal was a lovely man. He really was a super guy.
Yeah.
And, I wish he was still around, but,
Yeah.
And basically, he opened the door for me to move, like, beyond the locked doors that kept everyone off the Beatles.
Yeah.
Because he knew that I was cool enough to not be, cool,
sure.
doing all that shit.
Yeah.
So, I got to know them, and I got on particularly well with John and George and Ringo. Ringo's a hoot.
Yeah.
Every time, I haven't seen him for ages, but back then in the 70s when I was seeing him quite a lot, and then in the studios and whatnot, and then I hadn't seen him for a while, and then the next time I saw him I said, Ringo! It was at the Rainbow actually. Ringo, it's been great, it's been a long time. He said, yeah, it must be 25 years. And I've heard him say that to me, quite a lot because I didn't see him for months at a time. And then, hey, it's been a while. Yeah, it must be 25. He always said the same thing. Must be 25 years. Yeah. Lovely man.
Yeah.
All of the Beatles were very nice people.
Yeah. So getting back to John Lennon, you played on the Imagine album.
Yeah.
that was as a rhythm guitarist.
Yeah.
Along
what a privilege.
With Ted Turner of Wishbone Ash as well.
I brought him in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crapping himself.
Yeah.
And we get on the session and Ted turns around and he says, Rod, so yeah, he said, what's the D minor seventh? Are you serious?
Yeah.
So I showed him the simple version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he could play a guitar. Well, he could, but he wasn't I wasn't a talk guitarist.
No.
But I studied the subject properly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So can you remember what tracks you played on? I think Crippled Inside was one of them, wasn't it?
Crippled Inside was one of them. I don't remember them all, to be honest.
But I think it was 4 from what I remember.
Yeah, there were. I think you'll have to add that in because time goes by.
But there's a film of it, and you're in the film, I understand.
Theoretically, yeah.
Yeah. You see a bit of you, and Ted, yeah.
So that, for me, what was that like? Playing with my heroes? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Come on, it was the biggest lift in my life.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And what about playing with George Harrison? What did you do with him?
Well, that was a gift. I mean, and George was the guy who taught me to play guitar.
Oh, really?
He didn't realise it.
No.
I just copied every note he ever played on a record.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
And I did tell him that.
Yeah.
I said, thanks for teaching me to play guitar, George. He said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I copied every damn riff you ever played. You know?
Yeah.
And you taught me to play guitar.
Yeah.
They were surprisingly humble, honest, lovely people.
Yeah,
the Beatles.
They
really were.
Yeah.
And the only time my drop dead gorgeous, yes, I married a drop dead gorgeous wife, Marianne, Danish. Oh, what a slender beauty, blonde, beautiful. And the only time I can remember her being impressed with who I knew in the music business was when I said, oh, we're going out to dinner tomorrow night. So, another of your boring friends. We always talk music.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, this one's called Paul McCartney. She went, what?
Yeah.
That was about the only time I remember her being really impressed. She was, as a wife, she was perfect because she wasn't like hanging on every word of whatever guests I brought home.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, she'd sort of say, how do you take tea? Do you want sugar or not? You know, that kind of thing. She was just like one of my mates was there, and not, you know, John Lennon or someone.
Yeah. And in the 70s, you got involved with other groups as a publicist, I think.
Yeah, I acted as a publicist, mainly because I could do that. And I had a brain. Yeah. Which is more than most musicians don't have, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I got to... Miles Copeland had teamed up with a guy called John Sherry.
Yeah.
The agent, who was a manager and agent, who became a very close friend of mine. And I ended up working as a PR in their offices.
Right.
Why? Because you know, I got a brain and I've got a mouth and I'm confident and in PR you don't need to be a shy boy.
No.
So I did pretty well and handled some of the most exciting bands of the 70s.
So who did you work with in that?
Oh God, I mean, the list is so long, we'd be here for an hour.
I mean, I think Uriah Heep was one of them.
Uriah Heep was a later one when I went, when I got a little bit tired of the fact I was being taken for granted by the Sherry Copeland outfit.
Yeah.
And I'd been being sort of like, come and work for us by the Brons, you know, Jerry Bron and Lillian Bron. And in the end, I thought, fuck it, I'm going to go work for them.
Yeah.
Which I did. And so I was handling their list of bands. And all the rest of it, you know. I think I had a very easy ride in the music business.
Yeah.
I mean, I can look back now and analyse it and say, well, I'm not stupid. I've got a very high IQ. I'm very good with the English language.
Yeah.
I'm a very confident guy. So when you look right and you've got the brains and you've got the connections, you've got what you need.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What else do you need? You know? Oh, a beautiful wife. I had that too.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So I was kind of
so
pre-equipped.
Looking back, you know, although you didn't get the success that you should have got,
not as Rupert's people,
but
you should have done.
You've worked with some of the top musicians and had all these experiences.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Do I look back in anger, kind of thing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. You don't have any regrets or anything.
No. Regrets? Not greatly.
No.
One should not blame anything but oneself.
Yeah.
For anything that happens in your life.
Yeah.
You know, if something doesn't suit you, well, leave it. Don't stick around longer than necessary.
Yeah,
you know?
sure. Yeah.
I tended to think. I was brought up to be a carer for my mother.
Yeah.
My father, sadly, whilst being an aristocrat and a very well-educated man, was also an alcoholic.
Yeah, sure.
He was a fabulous mathematician, incredible. He was like a computer. That's not me.
No.
I'm a creative.
Yeah.
But creatives are rarely
sure.
mathematically minded.
Yeah.
So I had an alcoholic wreck of a father who taught me very clearly never to become addicted to anything.
Yeah.
Apart from maybe the fair sex, which I'm totally addicted to. I think women are just the most incredible creatures on planet Earth. I mean, where would we be without them? Well, it wouldn't be a human race for a start. But they keep more men on a stable line.
Yeah.
Than any other man ever has done. You know? And I really do respect our female counterparts.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving through the 70s to 80s, I know you played on the Wishbone Ash album Strange Affair on a track.
I did play on something, I can't remember.
Some Conversation, it was called.
Okay, yeah. I probably played on that.
So you were still in contact with them after all those years?
Yeah, I mean, they're still friends of mine.
Yeah,
to this day, all of them, you know.
Yeah.
And I think with musicians, when we make friends, we have all had the same problems with managers, with gigs, with travelling, with losing the girl of our dreams because we're musicians.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We've led very similar lives. It's easy to be good friends. Let me get a bit more in picture here. I'm a bit low down.
Yeah.
Can't really get it much higher.
Yeah.
Most of the people in the music business, I've got to say this, are good people.
Yeah.
You don't make music unless you're a good person, almost. You know, you've got to kind of love it.
Yeah.
To do it enough to be any good at it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And bad people don't have that thing going on in their heads.
Yeah,
they don't study, they just kind of, steal things.
Yeah.
They want something, I don't earn it, they just steal it.
Yeah.
Got plenty around here.
Oh, yeah. So nowadays you're in your late 70s.
Funny, isn't it?
Do you play any gigs or any shows?
I haven't played a gig for a while,
No.
actually, no. But I could play one tomorrow.
If someone offered you a gig.
Well, yes and no.
Yes,
I'd have to actually want to do it. I have written so many songs.
Yeah.
This is one of my problems, Mark. I've got so many songs. There's limits to how much the human brain can actually hold. In lyric and chords and subtle changes and little changes you've made during the life of that song.
Yeah.
So I use the cautionary thing called a piece of paper with the words on and the chords, just in case.
Yeah. So you still play the guitar every day, do you?
I wouldn't say every day, but a couple of times a week I'll pick up a guitar at least.
Yeah. So it's still in you.
Yeah. totally.
Yeah.
Look around the room. Well, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, we can finish off and show your guitars because there's quite a lot of history in this room, but you can see them up there. Yeah. And all the Rupert'S people albums and stuff.
Loads of amplifiers below that, if you tilt it that way. There's amplifiers, more guitars.
More guitars,
and so on.
But anyway, let's draw that to a close. But thank you ever so much, Rod, for letting me into your home and
that is my pleasure,
and sharing
Mark.
some of the stories of your life. And
that's all right.
Thank you ever so much. Okay.